to make sure that that kid also feels your love. And that's what perhaps Yitzchak and Rivka were doing. And maybe that's why Rivka does not send Esav away. She sends Yaakov away because she understands that Esav needs his Jewish mother, and even more so, he needs his father who understands him. I heard this that put is the following way. A fellow once went to his Rebbe asking permission to send a certain child out of the house. It was impossible. It was untenable. That child was wrecking the family dynamic, and all the other children were thriving. And the Rebbe said, I give you permission. I don't know how many kids, 10 kids. I give you permission, absolutely give you permission to send the other 9 out of the house. Not that one. That one needs you more than the others. All of those others will be fine out of the house. He won't. You got to keep him in the house. And so maybe Rivka is doing the exact same thing. Esav has to stay in the house. I'm his mother. He needs me. He needs his father. And remember where that coat was. When she went that whole subterfuge and she gave Yaakov Esav's special hunting coat so that he could impersonate him, she had it. Esav gave her that coat. They had a relationship. And she made sure that both of them felt loved. We can compare this also to exactly what happened with David HaMelech. King David, his son Avshalom rebelled. I can't even tell you. You'll go look at the story yourself. Some of the things that Avshalom did to his father, in addition to the rebellion, they're not fit to print in a family newspaper. Horrifying things that he did. And David, nevertheless, at the time of the last battle, gave instructions: do not kill my son. The general ignored the instructions, killed him anyway. He got the news and he started screaming, Avshalom b'ni, b'ni Avshalom, Avshalom b'ni, my son Avshalom, Avshalom my son, my son, my son. And the Medrash says that each time he said my son, he was reaching into started off in the lowest level of hell, Gehenna, whatever that means, I don't know, I don't want to find out. And each time lifting him up one level at a time until the final one, the final, B'ni, my son, stuck him up in heaven. Because a father and a mother, if the situation warrants it, hopefully it never will, have to be willing to reach into hell to save their child. And no matter where that child is holding, that child must always feel that parent's love. A friend just told me a story of a young girl who was growing up in an observant Jewish household and left the fold, and came downstairs, ready to go out. Mother said, "Good Shabbos. Where are you heading?" She said, "Oh, I'm heading out, to the city. Not dressed in her Sabbath finery." And her mother said, "Okay, just have a great time. How are you getting there?" "Oh, I'm taking the subway." She said, "Oh, I'll walk you to the subway stop." And so the mother walked her to the subway stop. This is on Shabbos. And before she, bid adieu, said, "Okay, good Shabbos." And again, the daughter said, "Good Shabbos," and got on the subway. And then years later, when the daughter slowly returned to the fold, someone said to her, "What was it that brought you back?" And she said, I'll never forget, it's Shabbos, and I'm getting on the subway. And my mother walked me to the subway and said good Shabbos and didn't judge me. And that's what started my road back. Because children have to, no matter what, they have to feel their parents' love. And that's the best antidote to try to make sure, or to try to reduce those frictions that can occur, those rivalries that can occur between siblings. And in fact, who knows? Maybe Yaakov became Yaakov because of Esav. Maybe it was that constant friction that caused him to strive to greater heights. So what's interesting is that, let's talk about that a little bit. This week's Torah portion in Vayetze, something really weird happens if you take a look at it. Yaakov calls everyone my brother. He arrives at the well and Lavan's shepherds are there and he says, "My brothers." Not Lavan's shepherds, the shepherds. I don't know if they're Lavan's shepherds, they're the shepherds. He calls them my brothers. Later, the Torah refers to his sons at the end of the parsha as his brothers. And then the weirdest one, Lavan's posse, who have come to capture him, maybe hurt him, he calls them my brothers. What's going on? I'm from Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Phillies had a player, also played for the New York Mets, named Lenny Dykstra. And Dykstra was known for calling everyone dude. It didn't matter who it was. The reporter in the post-game interview, hey, dude. His manager, dude. His teammates, dude. The opposing players, dude. The fans, hey, how you doing, dude? The umpire, what's up, dude? Call everybody dude. So is that what's going on? Like Yaakov just has this thing. He calls everybody bro. Hey, bro, what's up? Yo, what's up, bros? It's Yaakov. What's going on? So for years, I thought that what was going on is that Yaakov is looking for a brother because he doesn't have a brother. He has a monster. He has a monster as a brother. Esav is his brother. Congratulations, your brother is, let's see, you got, woo. Oh yeah, you got Esav. Yeah, good luck with that. So he's looking for a brother. The poor guy wants a brotherly relationship. He's got Esav as his brother. And then I realized that's not what's going on. I'm the oldest in my family. I don't look for an older brother and older sister. It might be fantastic. Ask my younger siblings. I hope they'll say that it's fantastic. I don't know what they'll say. I try my best, but who knows? I'm not looking for an older brother and older sister because I do not know what it is. I don't miss that. I don't have it. I don't know what it's like. You don't go looking for a sibling relationship that you don't have. You go looking for a sibling relationship that you had and you lost. My youngest are twin boys. They are inseparable. You're going to tell me that when they were 5 years old, 10 years old, Yaakov and Esav didn't get along ever? Twin boys is the closest relationship possible for siblings. Of course they got along. Like that was the obvious thing. You'd have to convince me otherwise that they didn't. Of course, at 13, Esav went off to do all sorts of horrifying things. But maybe that's what's going on. Yaakov had a brother, not just a brother. He had a twin brother, and he lost them. Maybe you could be my brother. Like the old book, Are You My Mother? Maybe you could be my brother. Maybe I lost my brother. And so maybe that's what's going on. It's very poignant. And maybe that'll help us explain the following, this relationship. Which, by the way, when his mother told him to leave, she even said to him when Rivka told Yaakov to leave at the end of last week's parsha, she says, by the way, he's reconsidering his feelings for you. And Rashi says, you know what she's telling him? She's telling him that he's reconsidering his achva, his affection for you, so that he's going to estrange himself from you, and then he's going to kill you. It's like right there, open. Rashi's telling us they had a relationship, a close relationship, twin brothers. So now that's going to help us maybe with the next piece. His mother had told him, go away, and when your brother calms down, I'm going to send for you. Come home. Okay. 34 years go by, and she sends her nurse Devora to go tell him, time to come home. He had spent 14 years learning in yeshiva. Then he spent 20 years in Lavan's house, 7 working for his first wife, another 7 for the next wife, 6 earning his income. She says, it's time to come home. It's been 34 years. He's going to come home now with his wives and with these unbelievable kids, and she's going to get to meet them. And he right away, he gets the message, and he speaks to his wives, he gets the permission, he packs up under cover of darkness, and he leaves because he's heading home. He gets to Israel and spends 2 years not coming home. He waits 2 years before he finally comes home. He finally comes home. His mother has passed away. Rivka has passed away. All of the patriarchs got to spend time together. Yitzchak with Abraham, Yaakov with his father Yitzchak, and with his grandfather Abraham. None of the matriarchs met each other except for the sisters. Sarah died. Rivka comes in after her death. Rivka dies, and now Yaakov shows up with Leah. Rachel has already died. So only Rachel and Leah got to meet each other. They could have spent 2 years together. His mother, Rivka, could have met her daughters-in-law, or at least one of them, and met her grandsons and granddaughter, or granddaughters, depending on how many Yaakov had according to the Midrashim, at least one, and she doesn't get the chance. What's going on? So Rashi tells us that because of the time that Yaakov was away and did not honor his parents, he lost Yosef for the exact same amount of time. Because that's how God works. Mida keneged mida. And Rashi does the math. He says he was away 36 years. First 14, he was learning Torah. You get a pass. Don't get punished for those. The next 22 years, exactly the same length of time that Yosef is stripped away from him. Rashi, what's going on? What do you mean he didn't honor his parents for 22 years? His parents said, go to Lavan's house and find a wife. He gets to Lavan's house. Lavan says, you got to work 6 years. 7 years. He works 7 years. Oh, and the 7 years, Lavan switches them. I really want the wife that I chose. But his parents aren't going to say, nah, yeah, no. You get one chance. Let's go. Come home right now. Okay. He works another 7 years. And then he's got to make a living. He's got family, works another 6 years. His parents wouldn't agree to that. And by the way, Rivka said to him, wait till I send word for you. She hasn't sent word yet. But then she sends word and he waits 2 years. So what I want to suggest is that you wait those 2 extra years, you're getting punished for all of them. You're getting punished for all 22. You can't say, well, 20, I was observing my parents, dictates, but the last 2, okay, maybe punish me for 2 years. No. Once you go outside the command of come home, safe now, let's go back. I want to see you. I miss you. I want to see your family. You don't obey that for 2 years, you get punished for the whole 22. So that leads to the obvious question. What in the world is going on? His mother sent for him. She said, come home. She had told him, when he calms down, I'm going to send for you. He's calmed down. It's been 34 years and he's not listening. And so I just can't help but wonder, maybe what was going on is that he realizes the following. He had come back into Israel. And when he did, he had that meeting with Esau. First, he fights Esau's angel. And then he has the meeting, he gives this massive gift to Esau. And then they come together and they embrace, and Esau invites him and he declines the invite, and then they part. And so maybe he's saying as follows: Mom, I looked him in the eye and I respectfully disagree. I don't think it's safe to come home because I'm concerned that if I come home and you and I get together, the two co-conspirators, because he knows by now, he knows from 5 minutes, he's brilliant. He knows you had to be in on it. He knows you gave his coat to me. If the two co-conspirators get together, he's going to come back and he's going to try to kill me. So Mom, I have to disagree. I don't think it's safe. So it's not that he happened to wait 2 years. He waited until he got news that his mother passed away. Then he goes home. So you'll say, how could he possibly think that he knew his brother better than his mother? He's been away 34, now 36 years. He knows, who knows a kid better than a mother? I have the answer to that. Twin brothers. He may say, Mom, I know you think it's safe, but I'm his twin brother. There's no relationship like that. I looked him in the eye and I don't think it's safe. So you'll say, okay, so why was he punished? Because at the end of the day, he didn't listen. And who's to say that she wasn't right? Maybe that's what's going on. And that's what he felt because he still understood that relationship. And we still suffer from that. The as we mentioned before, Esav Sones Yaakov. The next set, of course, is Yosef and the brothers. I don't want to spend that much time on this for 2 reasons. Number one, next week, in the next series, we're going to be speaking about Yosef and his dreams and his brothers. And also because God forbid, chas v'shalom, that we lump in that rivalry with a Yitzchak and Ishmael, or certainly not with an Esav and a Yaakov. It's a completely different type of rivalry. If you read that story, yeah, he got a nicer coat, and so the brothers, they wanted to kill him. And then they sold him as a slave. You can't possibly miss it worse than that. That you're missing it by a mile. This was a spiritual debate. It was not simple jealousy because he had a nicer coat. They thought that like Esav, Yosef was deceiving their father. He was upending the order that they had determined that Yehuda was going to be the leader, or Ruvain the eldest, that he was lording it over them. It was a spiritual battle, and they were concerned because they thought he was the second coming of Esav, and that would have been disastrous for the family. But I will just say this briefly, that rivalry, not simple jealousy, but of course you can't get around the fact that no, they certainly did not get along. That rivalry sent us into slavery. Siblings that didn't get along sent us into slavery in Egypt. Now fast forward, Yosef gets to Egypt, marries there, and then has 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And we bless our sons to this day. Friday night, fathers bless their son, and sons are blessed by their fathers, that you should be like Ephraim and Manasseh. God should place you like Ephraim and Manasseh. Why? So one answer is that they were the first ones who thrived out in the exile. They're the first ones to be brought up in exile, and we're in exile, and so we want to thrive in exile. But the other explanation is that towards the end of Yaakov's life, when Yosef brought his 2 brothers to be blessed, he positioned them so that Yaakov would put his right hand, the superior hand, on the head of his oldest, and his left hand on the head of his second oldest. And Yaakov switched his hands and put his left on the head of the oldest and is right on the hand of the youngest, and they were okay with it. They still got along. It's the first time you see this, but with notwithstanding the end of Yishmael's life when he deferred to Yitzhak. But you see these two brothers that get along. You don't see any rivalry. You don't see anything coming out of this, that because he switched the hands, they had now a repeat of the situation with Yosef. And so that's another reason why we bless our sons that way, that you should get along no matter what the situation. Even if the younger exceeds the older, both of you get along. And that type of relationship expands with the next one. And I know we're supposed to be keeping this the Sefer Bereshit, but I'll mention this very briefly, and I'll finish with this. We went down to Egypt as slaves because of siblings that didn't get along. And we got redeemed from that slavery through siblings who got along. God is at that bush for 7 days. Moshe, let's go. Time to save the Jewish people. God, I don't speak that well. I'll send your brother as your spokesperson. God, they're not going to listen to me. I'll give you sons. God, send whom you'll send. What does that mean? It means send Aaron. It means God, and some of the commentators say, this is the rub. All the others were just excuses. This is the reason that he won't go. He's basically saying, God, even if it means delaying the redemption indefinitely, I am not going to go back down to Egypt and take over the reins of leadership for my older brother. I am not going to take a chance that I'm going to embarrass my older brother or that my older brother is going to be upset at me. I can't do it. I won't do it. And God says to him, your older brother, Aaron, is coming to greet you, and he's happy. Because the same way Moshe is so worried about his brother's honor, I'm not going to do it. If it means embarrassing my brother, but the Jewish people have to be taken out of here, I can't do that. Not to my brother. And Aaron is coming to meet him. Little bro, I was the leader until now. Now God said, you're the leader. You're the leader. I'll be your second in command. Let's go. And so that gets us out. Brothers who didn't get along, got us into slavery. Brothers who did get along beautifully, they get us out, and they lead us to the redemption. So let's just summarize what we talked about. We saw from Cain and Abel, that we should embrace the competition, don't kill it. The spiritual competition, that the only area in which you can and you're encouraged to be jealous is of someone else's spiritual achievements. So don't make the mistake Cain made and kill your spiritual competition. Instead, look for it. Somebody's doing a little bit more than you to spur you to do more. We talked about that. You have to be welcoming, like Yitzhak obviously must have welcomed Abraham back, must have welcomed Yishmael back, and how careful Abraham was to make sure that even after he was sent out, he made it a point to go visit him and made it a point that he felt his father's love. We saw that every child must know that both parents love him or her. We saw that from Rivka and from Yitzhak. We saw that Yitzhak favoring Esav, not like him at all. And we saw that I shouldn't even say favoring, making sure that Esav felt his love. And we see Rivka making sure that Yaakov felt her love. And both of them making sure that they both felt that. And we talked about how important it is to make sure that the child for whom it's more difficult or most difficult for you to get along with, make sure that child feels your love. Best antidote to sibling rivalry, that competition for parental affection, is to make sure I know my father and mother love me. Doesn't matter if I'm like them, not like them. We talked about how we went down to Egypt due to sibling rivalry, and we got out through siblings getting along, including an older deferring to a younger, and a younger equally worried about the honor of the older. And we talked about how we bless our children to always get along with each other the way Ephraim and Manasseh did. I apologize again for the technical difficulties. I know we started late, so we ran a little late. I believe, Avi, are you out there I don't see you, but if you're out there, are we able to take questions through the Zoom?
Sure. So we have for one question from Lisa Brandis that asked, so are you saying that you should pull the child less like you closer?
The child, I think the question, would the child not like you closer?
Right.
So I'm glad you asked that. Yes, I'm certainly saying that. The child who's not like you and with whom it's more difficult, with whom you don't share as many interests, I think you do have to go out of your way to either find some shared interests, or as the parent, go and maybe check out and show some interest in their interests. They tell a story about how a pretty well-known rabbi's son also just was like, I'm out of here, I'm done with this, and left observance, and one of the things he liked to do was play poker. So the rabbi taught himself how to play poker and would go out and he joined his son's poker game. Now, he did not join his son's poker game because he was like, oh, I'm going to win some money in this poker game. He joined his son's poker game without saying it, but it was very clear the son must have known this. He joined his son's poker game to say 3 things to the son. I love you. I'm a rabbi, and I'm not usually in poker games, but I love you. And so I learned how to play poker. And so, yes, I think that. On the other hand, you can say, I had this discussion with my son's rabbi yesterday, and he pointed out that often it's the opposite. Often it's the one that's more like you that's more difficult, because the one that's not like you, okay, they're not like me. But the one who's like me, no, this is how you do it, right? You have even greater expectations. No, listen, hey, come on, we're both alike. Let me show you how you do this. And then when they don't, you're more disappointed. So that can work out also. So you have to be careful. So basically what I'm saying is that don't go wait until there's a problem with your child and saying, you know what, there's a problem with my child. Let me show him or her that I love them. You gotta, from birth, from cradle to grave, don't wait till there's a problem. You have to constantly be bathing them in love, that they know and they feel secure in the love of both parents, the ones who are like you, the ones who aren't like you, and everything in between. I'm trying to read this. Isn't a lack of communication between Isaac, okay, somebody's asking, isn't it the lack of communication between Isaac and Rebecca that caused the problem? So I love that topic. I'll do my best in a sound bite or two to address it. So one of the great commentators, the Netziv, in his classic work, the Emek Davar, addresses that issue, and he says the following. He says that you'll notice that Rivka meets Yitzchak not in Abraham's house or tent. She meets him on the road. He's coming from Be'er L'Chai Roy because he had gone to get Hagar to bring her back as a wife to Abraham. And when she first meets him, there's this incredible scene. She's on the camel. She sees him and she's so taken by his majestic sight. She literally, if you look at the words of the passage, she falls off the camel. It's interesting. It's like exactly what happened when my wife first laid eyes on me. She happened to be on a camel. She was like, oh my God, I fell off the camel. It didn't happen exactly like that. She actually doesn't remember when we first met. I do. It's a little embarrassing. But what can I tell you? It ended up working out. So she's stammering. She's saying like, Miha Ish, like who is that? Like Rashi says, he's this majestic, incredible, unbelievably powerful figure. She's like stammering, who is that? And Eliezer says to her, that's my master. That's your new husband. So the Emek Davar says that God worked it out that Rivka would meet Yitzchak there and not in Avram's house. Because if the first meeting was at Avram's house, Avraham, the ultimate Baal Chesed, would have taken her aside and said, listen, my son can be a little intimidating. I just want you to know that. Don't worry about it. He's a teddy bear, Sabra, like tough on the outside, soft on the inside. Like he would have appeased her and she wouldn't have been as scared. But instead, God wanted her to have the Pachad Yitzchak, the fear of Yitzchak. Why? So that she wouldn't have these conversations. Why? To set up that Yaakov would get the blessing through that subterfuge. He wanted to set, so God's planning this from all the way back, from their first meeting. I'm going to have them meet. He's going to be davening mincha. She's not going to believe what she's seeing. And she's always so when the babies are like, what's going on here? She doesn't ask her husband. Go ask her husband. He's the greatest sage in the world. He's the Gadol Hador. No, she goes to ask, Shane, what's going on? And now when it's time to get the blessings, like, let's sit down, let's talk it through. You sure you should give it to Asa? Nope. She has to do it through the subterfuge. So yes, the communication created the problem, but God wanted that problem because he wanted them to have the blessings that way. Maybe we can suggest that the reason he wanted the blessings that way is that he wanted to create that friction. I talked about this in the video this week because Esav's son is Yaakov, because and it's it's not easy to say the words, but I'll just throw it out to you. Just think about it. If there was never any persecution, if every time we went to a new country, they were like, you Jews are fantastic. You guys are great. You know what? Can you, we got this disease, polio. Can you cure it? Yeah, we can cure that. You know, we have to like just anytime we, you know, we need to figure something out. Like you guys are on, I mean, what's the percentage of Nobel Prize winners versus our population? It's off the charts. You guys are fantastic. Come live with us. This is great. Oh, by the way, you marry our daughters and, you marry our sons, and this is going to be great. Would we still be around, or would we not have assimilated long ago? And so it could well be, and that's the blessing that Yitzhak gives to Esau. The second blessing, when he begs him for one, don't you have any blessing left? He says, yeah. When your brother strays, then you can go after him, you can pound him. And so maybe God wanted to create that friction, that Esau he stole the blessing from me, I'm going after him. Because when we stray, he's always ready to pound us. So maybe that's what's going on. But I'm here in a live, I mentioned this on the stream. I'm here at Or Sameach, in front of a live class as well. So if anybody here has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. No pressure, I'm just giving you the opportunity. Yes.
So just on that last thing you said about sort of other cultures often being more focused on just like raw strength and this sort of thing, whereas I think in the Jewish culture sort of the opposite is the spirituality and so on. That this pattern of younger brothers as opposed to older brothers who are I think maybe often like forging a path is. Mm-hmm. How purposeful would that have to be, or in your view?
Purposeful would what have to be? That it's the younger, that it's specifically the younger brother?
The younger brother in every generation. Then.
So I don't know. I haven't done a deep dive into that to suggest that God's plan is that it always has to be the younger brother. I don't know that that's the case. I'd be very careful about suggesting that, and I'll tell you why. Because you're right that it happens often, but it doesn't happen always. And there's one that's very easily missed. And I like to scream this one from the rooftops as follows. Sometimes Moshe's name is listed first, and then Aaron's name. Sometimes Aaron's name is listed first, and then Moshe's name. Rashi says, you know why that is? To teach us that they're equal. Got to be the most facially ridiculous comment that Rashi has in all of his comments. What do you mean they're equal? If I say to you, okay, who was the greatest scorer in basketball history? Not player, okay? My father, I think, is out there watching. God forbid that I would ever disagree. You ask my father, at the end of the conversation, it was Wilt. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about LeBron. Don't talk to me about Kobe. Don't talk to me about Michael. Nobody else. But scorer. You're down 1 point. There are 10 seconds left. Whose hands do you want the ball to be in? Oh boy, I hope my father's going to agree with me. Otherwise, I'm going to be hearing about it soon. You want MJ. You want that ball in Michael Jordan's hands, right? You could argue about number two. We could have a great, healthy debate about number two. Scorer, game time, crunch time, it's number one. Who was the greatest ever in our world? It was Moshe. There's something to talk about. We could have a huge, wonderful debate. Who was number two? Was Yaakov number two? Was David Melech number two? Was Yosef number two? Was Aaron number two? But number one is Moshe. Hashem himself said, when Aaron and Miriam were talking about Moshe, God says he's not like anyone else. He speaks to me face to face. He's number one. So what in the world does Rashi tell you? What do you mean they're equal? So I saw an explanation once as follows. The Torah is divided into two parts. There's Ben Adam L'Makom, that's our obligations between man and God. And Ben Adam L'Chavera, those are our obligations between man and fellow man. Between man and God, Ben Adam L'Makom, number one, it's Moshe, there's nothing to talk about. We can debate number two. Ben Adam L'Chavera, between man and man, it's Aaron, and there's no debate. You could debate about number two. Maybe Moshe's number two. Maybe Aaron's number two. But Aaron's number one. They were equal. Rashi doesn't mean, well, equal, like some say, well, they both had different potential. Moshe had more potential, but they both reached their potential. That's why they're equal. No. Rashi's saying they're equal. That the greatest person ever, Ben Adam L'Makom, Moshe Rabbeinu. But the greatest person ever, Ben Adam L'Chavera, Aaron. So it's not always the case. Just another interesting take. Anybody else out in the Avi of anybody else?
Nope, that looks like that's all.
Okay. Anybody else out here? All right. Thank you for listening live. Thank you for listening via the internet. My apologies again. Obviously, through the best laid plans, like we say, that man plans and God laughs. I guess we were meant to have a short delay, and sorry about that. And hopefully next week we'll be able to fix that and start on time. So same bat time, same bat channel. Next Sunday we will be doing my personal all-time favorite class, talking about Here Comes the Dreamer, understanding Yosef's dreams and our own. Look forward to seeing you then. Everybody should be well. Take care.
Thank you.
Guys, sorry about the building. You can also, no, let me leave here.